Welcome to another live Q&A from Holistic Home Journey. I am Crystal Canada. And the way this works is you ask questions on Wednesdays in the community, and then I answer them on Thursdays. The replay is available live in the community. The replay is available in the community same day, so you could rewatch. Okay, so let's just dive right in. Brooke asks, how do you feel about having a TV in bedrooms? Yes, no, maybe in high school. My son is asking, and I want to get some insight before I decide. I wouldn't, and then Nettie answered under that, just saying like, I wouldn't have a TV in the bedroom because it might make it harder to get a good night's sleep. So I think it depends on age, and I think it depends on like the child's temperament, the child's ability to respect boundaries. For my young kids, I would not put the TV in the bedroom. So I feel like I want them out in the living room. I kind of want to monitor a little bit like what they're watching. I don't want them like watching TV in their bedroom and like not going to sleep. So I can't imagine that I personally would be comfortable with TV in their bedroom until probably they're like teenagers. Once they're at that point where you can have big conversations about them, about, you know, what kind of stuff they might see on the TV, and like set boundaries around what channels they can watch or what apps they can use. They're respectful of bedtime, or at least of like listening to their own body, to be like, hey, listen, if you're up till 3 a.m. watching TV, you're not going to be able to get up, and be involved in the day with us. I think once they can understand all of those things, I don't find the TV to me much different than them like scrolling on their phone or, watching their iPad. I personally even prefer that they use the TV. Lydia asks, my son will be 2 in January. Church is becoming hard to go to and enjoy with him, always getting into something he doesn't need or screaming just because. Help. And he is about to go into a toddler bed now, so how am I going to keep him in it? So let's address the first question, which is, what do we do with a 2-year-old? And it could be church, it could be the library, it could be, anywhere really that 2-year-olds are sort of meant to sit and behave, restaurants, right? How do we handle it when they are kind of like getting into things, they're being loud, they're not understanding sort of like what's being required of them at that time? I think we have to empathize with them a little bit. We have to realize that this is really hard for them to just sit and be quiet and listen oftentimes to things that they don't maybe understand. Sort of try to remember that they're not doing this to you. And I know if it's church, it might feel like they're doing it in a disrespectful way, but they're not trying to be disrespectful. They're just really probably understimulated and maybe overwhelmed with all of the constraints on them in that time. So what I would do is see if you can take a few things with you that are quiet. I like the little drawing pads that they can draw on. Like they just press into it. I think it's called a boogie board. I just showed them on my live yesterday. And then you can like erase it. It's no mess. They have those water pads. So it comes with a water pen and they can draw on that. And then just pay attention to what he is getting into. So if he's getting into like little manipulatives, maybe then you can get like some magnets, because maybe he's being drawn to more manipulatives instead of the drawing. Maybe you can bring like a deck of little cards with pictures on it that he can look at. Just pay attention to what he's naturally drawn to and see if there's a respectful or safe for that environment option for that he can sit and he can play with this. See if you can get a little bit of extra space so that he can sit, stand, lay down if he needs to, and meet those sensory needs. And then the last thing I would do is like practice. So outside of that high stress environment of saying like, right now in this moment you need to sit, and you cannot do these things, practice with him. Okay, let's pretend it's, Sunday morning and we're at church. Show me how you sit at church, and what do we do when we need to get our wiggles out at church? We can't yell. What do we need if we need to get our voice out at church, right? We can't yell, but we can take these breaths. And that could help you. Like give some appropriate suggestions to meet those needs. There's one more question in the group that didn't actually come on the live Q&A feed, but I feel like I saw something come in yesterday and I wanted to address it here. Oh yeah, about permissive parenting. So I'm going to answer this one last question that came into the group, and then if anybody has questions live, I definitely have a couple of minutes to do that. So you could just drop it. Good morning. You could drop it in the comments if you're on TikTok, or if you're on the Zoom chat. And if you're on the Zoom and you want to turn your camera on and chat, we could do that too. And then replay will be available as soon as I'm done recording in the community. Okay, so I'm not sure this person's name. It just says SB. Oh, she's on right now. I'm going to tell her that I'm answering her question live. She's like on in the community. And be like, girl, come over to this live feed. Oh, I can't even tag her. Oh, can I message her? Because I can direct message people in here. Cool. Yes, I can. No pressure, but I'm answering your question live now. I've been trying to take Zoe, and this will just take me 1 second. I've been trying to take Zoe to more like homeschool activities. So today we're like going to the park, we're meeting up with people. So that's why this is so early. All right, I'm going to give her a second to pop on just in case if she wants to. Leslie is saying, it just says won't fall asleep on his own. So I'm going to assume that maybe the rest of that hasn't come through yet is maybe like the child. Oh, here. Oh, how can we develop or work through this? So we just did an interview with a sleep specialist yesterday, and that was pretty cool. So you can go into the expert interviews and watch that interview replay. But I think you have to release control around bedtime. So the question is like, what do we do if the child will not fall asleep on his own? We cannot like force the child to fall asleep on their own, right? We cannot, to fall asleep like when we want them to fall asleep. We can set them up so we can say, at this point in the day, we go into bed. You can have, your stuffed animals, you can whisper to them. You can, if you're comfortable with them having like a light on and reading a book, like these are the things that you can do if your body is not tired, but we stay in bed at this point. Oh yeah, the rest of this other question was about bedtime too. I'm sorry, I'm dropping the ball today. Hold on. The rest of Lydia's question I didn't answer. Let me go back to it. Okay. So she has a 2-year-old who is about to go into a toddler bed. How am I going to keep him in it? I feel this. I definitely feel this. I would say like try not to transition them out of the crib unless they are like climbing out. If they're climbing out of it, then it's definitely like not safe to keep them in there. But if you can keep them in, like try, because if they're not at a point that you would trust that they're not going to like go in the kitchen and do all these things, it's definitely safer and less stressful to have them in there. But if you do have to if you are going to transition them into the toddler bed, I would just make sure that their room is a very safe space, that there's nothing that you're worried in their bedroom that they're going to get into. Maybe have a light that's sort of like lower, or we have these little sticks that attach to the light switch so that the kids can just put on the light by themselves. They're like super cheap on Amazon. Then you get like 2 or 3 for like $8. And maybe like at 2 years old, I don't know how much of the boundaries that the child is going to like understand. If you say, at 7 o'clock, you can't get out of your bed, like they're not going to really understand that. But you can get like a visual clock that when the clock is green, they're allowed to get up. When the clock is red, they have to stay in bed, or give them an option. When you get up, you can play with these toys over here, or you can come into mommy's bed, and then see how that goes. They also have like little alarms that you can put onto the door handle, and it will let you know like if they open the door. So if you're worried about the child like opening the door and then going into other areas of the house that are not safe, you can do something like that. All right, let me answer this one last question that came in through the community. And then I do see all of your questions coming in on TikTok here. Okay, so this person, I don't know her name because it just says SB, but she's in the community and she says, "Hello everyone, I have so many questions. I'm just getting started on this journey. Any tips on starting out when I've basically been overcompensating? I've been a very, very permissive parent. She's 6 years old and literally walks all over me because I've allowed it. Not sure why, maybe thinking I was trying to do the opposite of how I was raised, but doing more damage than good. Any advice would be helpful. Thanks." And this is so common. What'll happen is we know the extreme of how like we were raised, right? Like maybe you were hit, maybe you were harshly punished, maybe you were always grounded, or you didn't feel like you were heard, you didn't feel like you had respect, right? So we have this extreme of like how we were raised, and we want to make sure that we don't do that with our kids. So we wind up going the complete opposite. We don't hold any boundaries because we were never taught how to hold boundaries in a respectful way. We were never taught that you could be respectful to somebody, but also sort of like guide them and have high expectations for them, right? So we fall into permissive parenting. And so permissive parenting is when the child really doesn't respect boundaries, doesn't have many boundaries. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to do what you're asking because there's no consequences to their actions. And it's not because you're failing as a parent. It's typically because you're trying to do the best that you can and you just don't have all of the tools. So my suggestion was to kind of like pick just one or two things, right? So right now you have like this chaos, and the chaos that you have is a lot different than what we usually talk about, right? The chaos that you have is nobody's really like the authority at all in the house, right? And if somebody had to be picked as the authority, it's the child. Pick one or two things that is really not working in your home, things that are super stressful. Is it transitions to leaving the house? Is it bedtime? Is it meal times? Is it the general like tone of how you speak to each other, right? Like choose 1 to 2 things that are stressors in the house. And then at 6 years old, you can actually say to the child, "Listen, I don't like how this has been going. These are the changes that I feel we need to make. This is the direction that I would like to go," and let them be part of it. What do you think about that? How do you think you can contribute? And then kind of make a plan. So let's just say that the plan is, listen, you are allowed to have your opinions. You are allowed to have your own wants, your desires. You're even allowed to tell me those things. But when I say this decision is final, then this decision is final. Or maybe it's about the way that you're speaking to each other. Listen, I'm not going to respond anymore when when you are speaking to me in this way. When you say X, Y, and Z, or when you speak in this tone, or when you order me around the house, I need to set a boundary there. I'm not going to be responsive to that. So if you want something from me, this is how I need you to ask for it. And then in the moment, show both of you some grace, right? Because you are in these patterns and it's really hard for anybody to break out of patterns like this, especially a child that's not really sure what the new boundaries are and what the new consequences are. So for instance, if the issue is like speaking, the way that she's speaking, let's say she asks you for something, or she says like, "Mom, get me a snack," right? I don't know. "Mom, get me a snack." You might say, "Do you want to try that again?" Or, "Mom, can I have a snack, please?" And then when she repeats that back to you, then you go and get her the snack, right? But you're not going to say, "Don't speak to me like that. Remember, you're not speaking to me like that anymore," whatever, right? Like we want to keep the stress levels down. So show that you are calm and consistent. You're not doing any of this to hurt her. You're doing it to make sure that you can continue to have a respectful relationship. You're doing it because it's your job as her parent to guide her through this life. You respect her as an individual. You respect her opinions, her wants, her desires, all the things. She will have as much freedom as you deem appropriate for her to have. But sometimes when there needs to be limits set or expectations set, then you are going to enforce those things. You're going to do it in a calm and respectful way. but you are going to start enforcing it, and lean on us in the community. Okay. Like if certain scenarios come up, like, hey, I'm not sure if this is like how I should have handled it or whatever, like lean on us in the community, because we get questions like that all the time. All right, I'm going to jump over to, I have about 10 minutes. So I'm going to jump over to the questions that are coming in on TikTok. If you're watching on the Zoom, you can also leave questions in the chat there. My voice is like ridiculous. Okay. My 3-year-old goes to daycare. They drop off and pick up for preschool, so it's convenient, but the owner yells and isn't patient when I pick up. She always tells me I need to be firmer and yell too. Don't parent like that. Oh, I don't parent like that. How do we get on the same page? How do you suggest that I talk to her about it? This is really hard. And a lot of parents go through this where you are not on the same page with fundamentals of parenting as the people who are caring for your child all day long. My honest answer is that if this person is interacting with the children in front of you this way, then it's probably even worse interacting with the children when you are not there. So I would seek different care, because that person, being that your child is with them for so long, that person's voice will wind up being your child's inner voice, part of your child's inner voice. And so I would try to seek other care options. Whatever convenience that you're saving by them, like picking up and dropping off and all of these things, it's being made up for in the fact of like what your child is dealing with on the day to day. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to like change somebody's parenting style unless they are looking for that change. Like if they're coming to you and they're saying like, and I even see it on my community. I don't know how this eye looks like. I got like punched or something. If they're coming to you and they are like, listen, I want help with this, or I've seen you interact with your child and I really want to know how you're doing that and I'm interested, then there's a potential for change, right? But if somebody's like, no, my way is the best way and I need this immediate response of what yelling, that yelling gets me, they're probably not going to change. And I know that's frustrating. My 2-year-old gets frustrated easily, but doesn't say many words, and it's frustrating for both of us. Example, if we go into the store, she'll be fine and then suddenly start having a tantrum. We both get frustrated because I can't figure out why or how to help her because she won't tell me what's wrong. Hey, crazy Puerto Rican. All right, so 2 years old, they're not going to communicate the way that you and I are going to communicate, right? They're going to communicate in whatever way that they know how. And we need to, yes, teach them the vocabulary, teach them the right way to communicate, right? But also let them teach us their communication style, right? So if you're driving your car, kid's fine. All of a sudden, kids start screaming. Stop. Just stop. Because maybe they saw something, maybe somebody passed by them, maybe they just like, I don't know, but stop and try to do a calm down technique with your child. Okay, I'm going to listen to you. And the more you do this, the more they will calm down quickly because they know that you're going to try to meet their need for them. So they'll know that there's a benefit in calming down. Calming down doesn't mean, okay, we're going to continue. Calming down means mommy's going to figure out what I'm trying to tell her. So stop, help the child calm down. Whoa, do you want to show me something? Okay, show me. Come here. You want to show me? Get them up out of the cart and start pointing to things. Is it this? Is it this? Because now you're modeling. If you want something, point, show me. Now the child, even at 2 years old, even younger, will start pointing. They might start reaching like this, and that might mean that they want you to walk this way. Take the second, take the extra second, walk over there. If it's a box of graham crackers, it's $2, let them pick it up and open the bag and have it in the cart, right? Like we don't always have to have such control. You pay for it on the way out, obviously. But try to listen to their communication cues. We can get frustrated because they're not communicating in a way that we understand, but it's our job to help to decode them. And then we can teach them. So let's say they point and now they're pointing at things and now it's the crackers that they want, then you can say, oh, crackers. You want a cracker? Cracker. Give them that one word. So now next time when you're driving, they can say, cracker. Or you could teach them other words like help or more so that they can give you that quick communication. Sorry, my voice. I had a I had a cheeseburger and fries yesterday, and like with my voice box issue, I'm not supposed to have greasy food or red meat, whatever. How could you tell somebody like you can't have greasy food, you can't have red meat, you can't have dairy, like you can't have caffeine, whatever. So I sound like this sometimes. My daughter senses that there's tension between us, and she started saying that she doesn't want to go back anymore. So this is speaking about the child that the daycare teacher, the preschool teacher, is like yelling and at the kids and basically telling the parents that they need to yell at the kids. So the daughter is getting kind of like realizing that there's tension there. She doesn't want to go anymore. I think that's very stressful for a child to have to go somewhere, especially when sorry, that the environment is not healthy. It's stressful for you too. Absolutely. It's stressful for you because you need to send your child to preschool. You might need to go to work. You might need a mental break. You might just want to send her. It doesn't matter. But I would just start seeing if there's alternatives. Can she switch classes inside of that same preschool? Can you talk to the director of the preschool if there's a separate director? Can you ask to sit in on a class before you make a major decision? Can you just ask if you could sit there? Or maybe if you're a stay-at-home mom, you could even volunteer like to be in the classroom, for an hour a week for 2 weeks and just see how this person's interacting with the kids, and then confront the owner or whatever it is. Thank you for answering. Yeah, I always try to answer as many questions as I can. In the community, I answer every single question. All right, y'all. I'm going to take my hot mess over here and get on with my day. Join the community. We just talked to a sleep specialist. That replay is in there. This replay will be in there. I answer every single question in there. And I appreciate you being here. Buddy, I'm so happy that you were able to hang out today. Mama Peyton, do me a favor, ask this in the community because I do have to hop off now. But ask that in the community because I will go on later and answer, and I bet you other mamas in there will answer too. All right, see ya.